Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to Another World According to Briggs video, and it's been a few days. I apologise for that. We are back, and it should be back to complete normal now. And I mean, yeah, this one is the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the US or the United States. I don't think I've ever done a video reaction like this. I don't even think I've done a video related to like jobs. And I mean, this just seems like quite an interesting topic. I mean, dangerous jobs. I don't know what other things I'm thinking of. Maybe being in the army. What sort of dangerous jobs are there? Being a window cleaner for like skyscrapers, maybe? I don't know. Would that be considered a dangerous job? I guess it's going to be like statistics. So maybe certain jobs will look scary, but there's not actually been any sort of recorded deaths or whatever. Some jobs maybe you would not expect to be in this, but then there's people who, I don't know, pass away from them. Like maybe working in an office is the most dangerous job because you're more likely to slip over. I don't know, we're just going to see. But hopefully you guys enjoy. Shout out to my Instagram, my Twitter, links in the description for those interested. Same for my Patreon, links all there for those interested. But let's jump into this, man. Let's check this one out. Oh, not working.
What is going on, everyone? Let's talk about jobs that will get you killed, injured, or maimed most often in the United States. Every year, different organizations...
Bro, what the f... This does not look sturdy at all. Are you nuts? What is he even doing? This looks wild.
Including the Department of Labor and Statistics, publish reports on what jobs are the most dangerous in the United States. I read a couple of the reports and it was eye-opening. And before you ask, llama wrangler is not on the list. Probably should be. While going over the numbers, I was surprised some jobs I was sure would be on this list weren't, while others that I had no idea were dangerous.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe some unexpected things will be here.
Turns out they're extremely dangerous. We'll be ranking these jobs by how many deaths per every 100,000 full-time workers they have. I'll give you some of the numbers of some that didn't make the list that most of you probably think should be on the list. Right before we get to number one.
What's it called? Tree car. What's the word called? That's not what it's called. Lumberjacker? Is that what a lumberjack is? Somebody cuts trees, I think it is.
On this video, we will be using the 2019 numbers because, as we all know, 2020 was just weird and the numbers won't paint an accurate picture because so many people didn't work or worked from home or something else went on in 2020. A lot of the industries have really strange numbers compared to normal years. All right, let's take a look. Number 10, landscaping and groundkeeping workers.
What?
You heard me right, your gardener may be living on borrowed time. Landscaping can be dangerous, but it's not a possessed weed whacker that's doing these guys in. It's the
That's a pretty cool little bit of kit, you know. I've never seen anything like this before. Just skidding around on this little bit. What? But wait, how? I'm sort of thinking maybe they get chopped up or something, but maybe it's like you're outdoors. Surely, like, a lot of it's positive. You're like out sort of in, maybe not nature, but you're doing like things that aren't indoors and you're keeping active. So I wonder what this is. Please don't be people getting chopped up because that's gonna be an insane thought.
transportation. Driving from job to job, I guess, can get hazardous when you're driving a pickup with 5 other dudes and the back of the truck is filled with sharp tools and gasoline.
Wait, what?
In 2019, they had a total of 144 deaths and about 2,000 non-fatal injuries, and that gives their fatal injuries per 100,000 full-time workers 20.2.
What the?
Number 9. Construction trades and extraction workers.
Makes sense.
So this one kind of surprised me in a couple ways. I thought construction workers were, dropping off all the time. Well, as you'll find out in a minute, they get a lot of injuries, but they're not killed as much as you might think. Construction trades include things like framers, masons, carpenters, things like that. Oddly enough, one that I thought would be in that is not. It's actually got its own category. We'll learn about that later on. Number of full-time workers in 2019 was about 600,000. They had a total of 144 fatalities, and their fatal injuries per 100,000 full-time workers was 21.
I mean, that is actually, it's low when you think about how many people do it, but still, there's 144 people. Again, I don't know how many construction workers there'd be in the US, but there's got to be millions, probably, people, maybe a few million of people are construction workers, I'd assume, or in that kind of job. So in that sense, it's a very low number, but yeah, maybe I would have expected it to be higher. It's a high number, but it's a low number at the same time, because any death is obviously bad, but again, with this type of job, it's going to happen. Yeah, maybe I would have expected it to be a bit higher, actually.
Like I said, I thought that one would have a lot more, but their injuries, they had over 5,300. That's reported. You know, a lot of those dudes lost half a finger and just, put a bandage on it and went back to work the next day. Number 8. Iron and steel worker, structural types.
Just
If
looks
you don't know what
dangerous,
that
to be
is,
honest.
the most notable one is the guys that put skyscrapers together. There used to be pictures of them in the 1940s and 50s when they used to build big high-rises. Guys walking on these beams, and it's a crazy job. I don't think you could do it if you're the slightest bit afraid of heights. Obviously, it's gotten better over the years. Back in the 50s and 60s, they were losing dudes every week. But it's still dangerous to this day, and that's just one aspect of that industry. There's a bunch of other things that go into this. All in all, it's a pretty dangerous job. The most common fatal accident in this industry is falls, and these guys fall from pretty good height too. Can you imagine working on a high rise and falling all the way down to the bottom? They might have to dig you out of the parking lot. In 2019, there was only 15 fatalities. That brings their fatal injuries per 100,000
But obviously, per the amount of people, it's a lot higher.
full-time workers to 23.6. Number 7, farm and ranch workers. Ranching and farming are not as easy or safe as it looks in the movies and in TV. Now,
Maybe again, like the equipment they use, I guess. I think there's that vehicle that I'm thinking of. The vehicle, it sort of picks up, it rolls. It's got like a sharp bit, like a little sharp little turny bit at the front. What the hell is that called? I think it weaves things or does something like that, or like does something to the ground. Maybe that's one of those things that causes injuries. I don't know why I'm thinking of all these brutal ways that people will lose their lives, but that's just sort of what's coming to my head.
say that, and I hope I didn't ruin anything for anyone, but I hope we all know Green Acres and Bonanza were fake. We all know that, right? All right, moving on. Like so many other industries, the number one way farmers and ranch hands kick the oxygen habit is transportation. Getting out on the open road with whatever you're delivering, whatever you're moving, you get in accidents and people die. It's sad, but that's what happens. And they had about 258 fatal injuries, giving them 24.7 fatalities for every 100,000 full-time workers. Number 6. Drivers, delivery, taxi, and truck drivers.
Makes sense.
People behind the wheel have always
I mean, to be fair, how all the last ones were so high because, or a few of the last ones are so high because of like driving. I would have expected this to be even higher because, I mean, it would make sense because this is literally what their job's about, but still obviously quite high.
been seconds away from death. We all are when we get on the road. As we've seen already, most of the dangerous jobs lose the most while transporting things like livestock and equipment. Well, people that transport us, our frozen food, and our Amazon orders are going to the afterlife at an alarming number. And they lost 966 drivers on the road in 2019. That means 26 people died for every 100,000 full-time drivers. And as you can imagine, the most common fatal accident is transportation incidents. And their non-fatal injuries is pretty high too. It's almost 80,000. It's 78,520. I'm sure that would be a lot higher if we didn't have things like seatbelt laws, airbags, things of that nature. Number 5. Garbage and recycle collectors.
What?
Yep, garbage men are getting croaked on the job. And guess how it's happening? Yeah,
Bro, look how we just threw it at the guy's face. I love that, man. Enjoying life on the job. You gotta love to see
bags,
it.
things of that nature.
It's gonna be smile.
Number
man.
5. Garbage and
one.
recycle collectors. Yep, garbage men are getting croaked on the job. And guess how it's happening? Yeah, transportation incidents. Imagine that. I find that one kind of strange because, you know, they just go like 20 feet and another 20 feet. It's not like they're on the highway very often doing like 75 miles an hour. But I guess intersections, stuff like that can be deadly, especially most of them don't have doors. I wonder how many get knocked out of the truck. We had a garbage man at my house when I was growing up, the same one all the time for years. Back then, you used to, you'd get a guy like that or like a mailman and they'd be the same one for years. Well, our guy had broke his knee or his leg or something like that, and he was off work for a couple months. Then when he came back to work, he was only back to work for like 3 weeks, and he like broke his wrist. That guy had some bad luck. Anyway, apparently a lot of them are having bad luck because a lot of them are dying. And they had 37 fatalities in 2019. Now, those 37 deaths put them at 44.3 fatalities.
Oh my days. Yo. I mean, that's baffling to me.
Fatalities for every 100,000 full-time workers. And the most common fatality? Transportation incident.
Again, big jump.
Number
up from the
4,
last one.
roofers. Yeah, this one's a no-brainer. People on roofs tend to get killed or injured pretty bad. It's not a giant industry as far as full-time employees go, but they get a good amount of deaths. It's not the number one, but I'm sure a lot of these dudes get some skin cancer later on in life. Some comedian one time was talking about how Oprah, they said being a mom is the hardest job in the world. He said no, it's actually being a redhead roofer in Arizona. I think it was Bill Burr, but anyway, hysterical. But regardless, red hair, Arizona or not, roofing's a rough business to be in. And in 2019, they lost 96. That gives them 51.5 for every 100,000 full-time workers.
Oh
And they had
days.
over 2,000 non...
Bro, what's the number one gonna be? I mean, and like, what's the percentage that, like, what's it gonna be at? I'm guessing it's gonna be over like 100 per 100,000.
fatal injuries.
Wow.
Number 3, aircraft pilots and flight engineers.
I mean, it makes
when
sense,
I first
but
read
it's
this, I
also
thought
a
it was
surprise.
wrong. I thought to myself, airliners don't go down that often. How is this happening? As I read, I realized it's not just airliners. It's like helicopter pilots, crop dusting pilots, bush pilots in Alaska, sightseeing aircraft, people on brooms like my cousin's ex-wife. Things like that. And in 2019, they lost 70, putting them about 58.9 for every 100,000 full-time workers. The most common cause for these fatalities? Hitting the ground at elevated speeds. Number 2, fishing-related workers. We've all seen Deadliest Catch, and it's not so exciting and not so dangerous, lobstermen. Yeah, they are considered fishermen too. Crabbers, lobstermen, whatever you want to call them. They all fall under the category of fishing-related workers, and they die a lot. The term Deadliest Catch didn't come out of nowhere. That is a very dangerous industry, especially up there in Alaska. The lobstermen, not so dangerous. I mean, their only danger is missing happy hour if they come in late. In 2019, there were 30 fishing fatalities. It's actually 77.4 for every 100,000 full-time workers. This one's a little different. It's not transportation. Well, I guess it kind of is, but they list drowning and contact with objects. I guess that's getting crushed by a crab pot or something.
Oh my days.
All right, before we get to number 1, as promised, I was going to tell you about some industries that a lot of people assume are the most dangerous, but they're really not. Not saying it's not dangerous at all, it's just not the most dangerous. Normally that has to do with they have so many people working in that industry. The first one is law enforcement. I did a poll on the community tab of the channel, and within 3 hours...
I guess so, but actually that would be quite high. I mean, it's a dangerous job, but I guess because there's quite a lot of them as well, maybe it isn't as high in terms of the percentage.
We had about 4,000 votes, and 46% thought law enforcement was the deadliest out of the ones I had here. Fishing, fire rescue, construction, timber. No, it definitely isn't. Don't get me wrong, I know it's an extremely dangerous job. They just don't have as many fatalities as other industries. And I think really with law enforcement and military, the biggest danger is your mental health. You can only see so much before it really starts to affect your well-being. According to the FBI, in 2019, there were 48 felonious deaths that occurred in 19 states and Puerto Rico. 45 were male, 3 were female. 15 died as a result of investigation or law enforcement activity. 6 were conducting traffic stops. 4 were performing investigation activities. 2 were drug-related matters. 2 were interacting with a wanted person. 1 was investigating a suspicious person. And 9 were involved in tactical situations. 5 were unprovoked attacks. 4 were responding to robberies. And 2 passed away because of a vehicular pursuit. Seeing that law enforcement has 700,000 nationwide full-time employees, that puts them about 6.8 for every 100,000 residents. Firefighters were a little bit worse. They didn't make the list either. They would have fallen around number 15 with 12.6 for every 100,000 full-time workers.
What
Both
the
very
hell?
dangerous jobs, just not in the stat we're looking at with this list. All right, on to number 1.
Man, I would have thought these would be way higher. I don't even know how I didn't guess that at the start.
And number 1, logging industry.
Logging,
I knew
that's
this one
the
was
worst.
dangerous, but I thought as the years went on, it wouldn't have been as dangerous now. I mean, every time I see something on the Discovery Channel or something like that, it's very automated. They have these machines that do most of the work, and I thought that was a little more widespread that I learned isn't. They do have those machines. They're just still using dudes with chainsaws like they always have. And that leads to a lot of fatalities. Among the biggest risks for loggers is being hit by falling objects while they're bringing down trees or having accidents while operating the equipment that allows them to take down trees. In 2019, they had 74 fatal injuries. That gives them about 97.6 for every 100,000 full-time workers.
Fuck.
All right, that's today's...
Wait, what? Jeez. I was just focusing on this. This bit of equipment looks kind of crazy, man. I've never seen anything like this before.
7.6 for every 100,000 full-time workers.
What the hell? But yeah, man. The more you know, right? I'd be curious as to if this is just sort of like similar to the UK or to France or just wherever. If this just sort of these sort of jobs are universally as dangerous as other places, or if it sort of changes depending on where you are. I mean, it must change a bit, but I assume countries that are similar, like the UK and the US or Canada, a lot of these will be quite similar, but maybe not. Back in the day, loggers didn't wear ear protection. Many of the older loggers suffered hearing loss from the noise. My stepfather was almost completely deaf. Flying on brooms like my cousin's ex-wife. I wonder how many people had to Google the Green Acres reference. These are the type of jobs where having a short attention span or bad lapse of judgment can be fatal. Yeah, I'd be screwed, to be honest. I'm a lumberjack in France, and yes, I confirm it's extremely dangerous if you don't pay some attention. One mistake can kill you. So, yeah, like you said, wherever you are, it's going to be obviously it's going to be a lot of similar statistics, I guess. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this, and if you have one of these jobs, let me know what it is actually like. Maybe you've experienced someone getting injured through this or whatever. But yeah, I'd be interested in you letting me know, like, if this does sort of correlate to what you've seen through your own experiences with your job. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy this reaction. More on the way, more world according to Briggs, because this channel is always just interesting to see different stats and stuff. But yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, peace.